Tick tock, I'm a kitty cat clock. Cuckoo, cuckoo. You're so dang cute, and my desk is so messy, just ignore it. Hey you guys, it's Danny and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week's video is all about pessimism and the real reason you're a pessimist. And as always on this channel, we're going to begin with my definition of the word. My definition of a pessimist is a person who perceives the world through the lens of worst case scenario and tends to see the negative nuances in situations. A pessimist tends to see positive thinking as foolish or setting yourself up for disappointment. So whether you tend to look at the world with more pessimism or optimism is based on your belief system. Your perspective is formed and informed by the life experiences that you've had and what lessons you were taught by the people close to you, especially at a young age. No. If there's anything on the counter, my cat just needs to knock it down. She only likes things on the floor. Prove to people that this is what you do. So, unlike what I previously believed, we're not born pessimists or optimists. We all have a little bit of pessimism and optimism in all of us. What we resonate with is actually based on our belief system, based on our life experiences. Basically, our mind and thought patterns will resort to whatever has kept us safer throughout our lives. And before I get into how we become pessimists, I want to say that being an optimist isn't necessarily better than being a pessimist as everybody kind of frames it to be. Yes, positive thinking can be extremely beneficial to your life, but a lot of people that are hyper optimists are optimists to the point where they are denying the reality of the negative nuances that exists in their life and the lives of others. And that can be equally as unhealthy as denying all the positive aspects of reality and just focusing on the negative ones. But usually, since optimism tends to feel better, we perceive it as better. Oh, there's guacamole on my pants. That is not cute. So now that we've covered that, it's time to get into how we really become a pessimist. 1, we were regularly disappointed or our expectations weren't met. So in our early life, we had a lot of experiences where we had a very optimistic point of view on a situation or a positive expectation. But as things panned out, it turned out being a worst case scenario, something that actually felt like a negative outcome as opposed to a positive one. And so we felt incredibly disappointed. Maybe we were even told that these expectations were unrealistic or these expectations were selfish. So when things didn't pan out the way we had hoped for, it imprinted the belief onto us that life is hopeless and expecting the best out of a situation will only lead us to feel stupid, unfulfilled, and hurt. 2, pessimism kept us emotionally safe. By expecting the worst case scenario, we feel prepared for that negative thing to come into our lives. We tell ourselves, well, things can't be worse than this worst case scenario, so if I expect the worst, then things can only exceed my expectations. So I won't have to feel disappointed. We equate expecting very little out of life and expecting the worst out of any given situation to mean us experiencing less pain, because we don't feel as let down if we're already expecting to be let down. One thing that's important to keep in mind is sometimes we will expect the worst and yet still have resistance towards that outcome. So yeah, if that worst case scenario does come to fruition, expecting the worst may soften the blow. But if we don't accept that scenario, if we don't find the positive within that negativity, then we will still see that bad scenario as something happening to us as opposed to for us. 3, pessimism protected us socially. I think the easiest scenario to really illustrate how pessimism can protect you socially is if you look at a kid that's being bullied. If you're a target of bullying, expecting the worst out of your peers is going to save you from a lot of potential embarrassment. I want to give a quick example. So I remember one day I was in homeroom, I was talking to a friend, let's just call her Nadia for the sake of this video, and there's like a posse of kids like standing fairly close to us, and then one girl leaves the circle, comes to us, and just starts like sitting down and asking us questions. And she was like, yeah, hi, so Nadia, what's your middle name? And she was like, Athena. And she was like, wow, cool. What about you, Danny? And I was like, why do you care? And she was like, wow, you don't have to be so rude. I was just curious, like, geez. So she stands up, she leaves, she walks back to her group. Nadia keeps talking to me. And I, look at them and listen to their conversation. And I hear the girl say, can you believe her middle name is Athena? Like, that's so stupid. What a weird name. Obviously, it's the stupidest thing to make fun of someone for. Like, 6th grade bullies obviously don't have the best sense of humor, apparently. But because I came in with the belief that kids are going to make fun of me, and because I came in with the belief that people's kindness isn't trustworthy, I was able to protect myself from being made fun of by a group of kids. But when I transferred schools, when I got older and this kind of dynamic wasn't really present in my life in the same way anymore, I became very distrustful of other people unless you were in my immediate close circle. So I started to push people away, and I became a loner. I really wanted to get close to people, but I didn't trust their intentions, and I didn't trust that they would be loyal to me. So the beliefs that once kept me incredibly safe in social situations became the very thing that made it impossible for me to socialize. Number 4, optimism hurt us more than helped us. So I kind of believe that a pessimist is truly a betrayed optimist. At some point in time, we believed something so much that we were convinced that it would come to fruition, that it would become our reality. And as time went on, one day we realized that things weren't going to work out the way that we had envisioned for so long. When our optimism isn't rewarded, or our optimism isn't accompanied by the reality that we are hoping for, we feel stupid, we feel lost, we feel betrayed, and so we go to the opposite extreme. Having the optimistic outlook feels vulnerable. For example, if throughout high school you were telling everybody you were going to be a famous pop star, and you believed it with your entire being, and then when you actually started going after this dream, things weren't really working out for you, and you kind of started to realize this isn't going anywhere. And so in order to protect yourself from the fact that you really put yourself out there as this is my desire and I'm going to make this real, when at a certain point you no longer perceive this as a possible reality for you, you go to the complete opposite extreme. This is never going to happen. The world is against me. I'm so stupid for thinking it ever was possible. And these kinds of thoughts and emotions protect you from the fact that you feel betrayed by the world, that this thing that you were trying to manifest into your reality didn't come. But here's the thing. When we have certain desires, while, for example, maybe 5 years ago you wanted to be a pop star and now you don't want to be a pop star, you still have the same energetic desires and needs. So maybe unconsciously, what you saw in being a pop star was the idea of people recognizing, respecting, and appreciating your talent. The energetic desire of you receiving love and attention from people unconditionally. So although presently you may not want to be that pop star, you still have the desire for love and appreciation and validation that you saw in that possible timeline. Because often when we develop a more pessimistic outlook, we start to think that all of our wants and all of our needs are unreasonable and are never going to be met because this representation of those needs didn't seem to be working out for us. But think of it this way. By this reality not coming into your life, is that because the universe is telling you that you don't deserve to be accepted or loved or be appreciated for your talent? Or is the universe telling you that being a celebrity and being put in front of crowds and being put on this pedestal all the time isn't something that's in alignment to you? We create meanings out of situations and out of outcomes. So if we take the meaning away that these high hopes are only going to hurt us, then that pessimistic outlook may lead us to neglect more of ourselves in the process. Number 5, people have consistently denied or invalidated the nuances in your life. Meaning the very important people, especially in your early life, would deny either the positive or negative nuances in a given situation. So for example, let's say as a little kid, you get a test back and you get a 80% and you're super proud of yourself because you worked really hard on it and you're like, yes, I did well, I passed. But when you show the report to your parents, They say, 80%, why didn't you get 100? You said you worked really hard on it. You should have done better. And so that little kid's excitement and their positive outlook on all the hard work that they just did was completely shut down, which completely invalidates the way that that kid feels. And then they start to believe, oh, I'm not good enough. And this can also look like the complete opposite kind of situation. And I'll give you one from my personal life. So when I was in 6th grade, I was changing in the locker rooms, and there was an 8th grader that had the locker like right next to me. And one day I was wearing this outfit and it was all gray. And she said to me, you know, you'd be really pretty, but you wear things like that. So obviously it was like a backhanded compliment, but it really hurt my feelings. And I remember when I was telling either my mom or my dad about this, they said to me, oh, but sweetie, she was just trying to give you a compliment. Their intention in saying that was to make me feel better. But instead, how it made me feel when they were trying to cover up this situation that hurt my feelings with positivity is it made me feel like my feelings weren't valid or I wasn't okay for actually being offended by that. I attached the meaning of you're too sensitive. That shouldn't hurt your feelings. It's not that mean. When in reality, what I needed in that moment was to be validated that, you know what, that sucks, I'm sorry. Backhanded compliments don't feel good. So obviously in these situations where you're talking about a negative thing that happened to you and someone tries to cover it up with positivity, they're really trying to help you. They want you to look at the bright side and get something good out of this situation so that the negative emotions can pass and go away. But what this ends up leading to is us feeling even more invalidated and even more alone, and feeling like our emotions aren't okay or normal. The 6th thing that makes us more of a pessimist is the fact that we are hardwired for negativity. What I mean by this is our species developed from our survival instincts. If we are out in the wild, in nature, if we're out in the open and our brain is only looking at the positive things, like, look how beautiful the flower is, wow, the water's so gorgeous, look at the sky, then what's going to happen? This creature is going to be like, nee, 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 nee. And then a bear or something is going to come and attack it and eat it because the thing is distracted. But if the creature is gathering food and looking for its food and checking over its shoulder to make sure nothing's coming to attack and making sure the environment is safe, by feeling unsafe, the creature is prepared for any attacks that come its way. So obviously our fear response, our fight or flight mode, is a very important part of our minds that has kept us safe for generations. However, now that we live in a world where we don't perpetually have to live in a state of fear in order to stay safe, it actually hurts us more than it helps us. So in short, pessimism helps us avoid perceived danger. If we go into a social situation expecting that nobody's going to like us and everybody's an asshole, then if people aren't nice to us, or if people reject us, or if people don't really want to give us the time of day, we came in with low expectations, so when it happens, we're like, of course this happened, whatever. But what we don't realize is by coming in with this attitude of trying to avoid danger, is we also avoid the thing that deep down we're aching to do, which is to connect with others. So obviously we developed this pessimistic attitude to protect ourselves. It was more easily wired into our brains because looking out for danger is historically what has kept our species alive and safe. But as this pattern repeats again and again, this way of thinking becomes unconscious, and then we are pessimistic by nature, when in reality we're just pessimistic by repeated conditioning to keep us safe. So really, at the end of this spiel, the one thing you can really narrow all of these points down to, in terms of how we become a pessimist, is at the end of the day, pessimism kept us safe and optimism didn't. All right, next section. So, now that we covered how we become a pessimist, it's time to get into how to heal from pessimism. Number 1. Accept negativity. As a pessimist, you know that when people just tell you to think positive, that is not a solution for hardwired pessimism. As pessimists, I think a lot of us, when we first start realizing that our pessimism is actually in our way, we try to do the pendulum swing and go to the complete opposite way of being. Where the danger in that lies is that we are completely denying why we became a pessimist in the first place. Because then we start to deny that negative aspect of ourselves. What happens is when we make this switch, as soon as we get disappointed in our place of optimism and positivity, there's going to be a rubber band effect right back to where you started. And you're going to be like, oh, this fucking optimism thing doesn't work for me. This never works out for me. And you're right back at square one. So in order for you to have the most integrated, balanced, and ultimately beneficial outlook on life is to hold space for your negativity, is to understand your negativity. You can have a conversation with yourself. I like having conversation with myself. I like having conversation with myself when I'm looking into a mirror. I ask myself questions and I respond out loud, and this gives me the ability to verbally express some of my denser emotions, right? And I'm able to process it in a way where I gain cognitive understanding of those emotions. And if not understanding, just acceptance and love for it. You can also journal and have a huge thought dump where you really get into those negative emotions and you write out whatever comes to mind. So this involves like no censoring of how you really feel. So for example, if you have the thought of, I hate this person for doing this to me, and you have this voice in the back of your head being like, no, you don't hate them, it's fine, like, I forgive them, it's okay. Don't use that voice to deny the negative emotions that you're experiencing. We don't have to use one voice to override the other. So if there's an aspect of yourself that still holds the belief, for example, that the world is against me, let that aspect of you say, the world is against me, even though you know that that belief system doesn't help you. It's important for that aspect to express that belief so that A, you're aware that it still exists within you, and B, so you don't invalidate that aspect of yourself that still believes that. Because think about it. If you believe the world is against you and someone's like, no, it's not, the world isn't against you, everything's fine, things always happen for a reason, then what's happening? That person is invalidating you, and therefore, you would believe even more that the world is against you. We have to accept the negative emotions, the negative beliefs, and all the negativity in order to set up a foundation of trust with ourselves. So as we start to integrate new beliefs that serve us better, everybody's on the same page instead of we're trying to drag all of these aspects of ourselves that aren't ready for change, and they're sort of just digging their heels into the dirt as we're trying to move forward. Instead of trying to like cut off the tie of this aspect of yourself, which doesn't work because you can't actually get rid of aspects of yourself, you can only suppress them, accept that this aspect of you is dragging behind and work with it so that it starts working for you instead of working against you as a whole. So in reality, I think that this is probably like the most important step in this process and probably the step that is overlooked most often. That was scary-ish. Number 2, assign new meaning to bad experiences. So now that we've accepted the reality of pain and negativity, we now have the choice to change the way that we look at it. Oftentimes when we look at the world through the lens of pessimism, we see all of these situations as happening to us. We see ourselves as the victim of our reality. Whereas we have the choice to see things as happening for us instead of happening to us. So a good way to start with this is to look at your past experiences in which you were deeply hurt or traumatized. And this exercise is not about invalidating the pain you've been through, because as I said, accepting the negativity is the most important part of this process in order to make sure that this is something that's healthy and benefiting you instead of something that's almost like gaslighting yourself. So let's think of a breakup, for example. Let's say someone broke up with you and this whole time you've been in a complete victim mentality around the situation, thinking I was in love with that person, I could have been with that person, why did this happen to me, this sucks, and you get caught in this negative spiral over this event. And you assigned the meaning to this situation unconsciously. I'm not good enough as I am to be loved. Or the people I love will always leave me. When instead you can assign the meaning to it of, the universe takes things out of my life when something better is coming in. This breakup was an opportunity for me to deeper connect with myself because this relationship led me to deny myself for the sake of connection. So ask yourself, how did every bad thing that happened to me actually happen for me? What positive things, whether big or small, came out of that negative situation. So it's not about denying the negativity. It's not about pushing it away. It's about choosing to put your focus on what has worked for you as opposed to what has happened to you. And this allows us to feel gratitude for the things that have brought us pain instead of anger and betrayal. I think a good analogy to kind of illustrate this idea is like finding the stars in the night sky. Obviously, it is mostly darkness, right? It is mostly negativity of this whole thing. And yet when we look at the night sky and see all the stars, all we think is, wow, that's so beautiful. But the stars wouldn't be nearly as beautiful if there wasn't the contrast of that darkness, right? A situation can be mostly bad, but if we choose to see the little glimpses of light within the darkness, then we can appreciate this situation as a whole for everything it's given us. You can choose to focus on the black void, or you can choose to focus on the stars. Number 3, accept the worst case scenario, but don't spiral. I think probably the biggest lie that we tell ourselves as pessimists is that by expecting the worst case scenario, that we're making this whole thing easier for ourselves. When in reality, we're actually expecting the worst case scenario and not accepting it. We still hold resistance towards this bad outcome. So as we're conjuring up all of these worst case scenarios, we trick ourselves into thinking it's going to help us avoid mistakes to prevent a certain outcome, or that it will help us accept this bad outcome when it comes because, oh, we've already thought about that. And here's the thing. Yes, conjuring up these bad scenarios may soften the blow when that bad thing actually comes. But right now, as you are visualizing this negativity, it's causing you more pain and it's putting you in a state of negativity. So you may be asking yourself, how do we accept the negativity without spiraling into it? Obviously, this can be very tricky to navigate and it can definitely take some time. But one thing that can really help you is learning how to accept the worst case scenario and not prepare for it. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have a parent who's sick and you worry about them dying, right? You can either accept the fact that it's possible that they may not survive, accompanied with the understanding that freaking out over this possibility isn't going to do anything and it isn't going to change anything. So you use this knowledge as an opportunity to be present with this parent or this person. You spend time with them as they're going through this process. You connect with them at a deeper level because you're aware of the fact that time is limited and you never know what may come next. So since they are here right now, you might as well enjoy that. So regardless of whether this person passes away or if this person recovers, you built a deeper relationship with this person and you got something good out of this bad, tough situation. On the flip side, if you spiral into the fear of this person passing away, sadly what a lot of people do is when they find out someone's sick, is they'll start creating distance with them. Because they believe that keeping this person further away will ease the pain, they try to ignore what this person is going through or avoid seeing what's happening so that they don't have to think about it. But what ends up happening is the fear is actually keeping you further away from this person, and when they pass away, all that you're going to feel is even more pain that you didn't get to spend as much time with that person as you wanted to. But if you spiral into fear, you're going to be so worried about trying to prevent their death and trying to control something that truly is out of your control. You're spending so much of your energy focusing on this potential future and resisting the possibility of this future, instead of recognizing how scary this future is and choosing to stay present with this person anyway. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard perspective to shift, especially when our minds are primed to looking for the future and looking to the negative. But in that kind of situation, being present is the best thing that you can do in regards to a situation that's outside of your control. So when I say accept the worst case scenario, don't prepare, I don't mean like don't set aside money for medical emergencies or don't put your finances in a bunch of different places in case the dollar crashes or the stock market crashes or whatever. It's good to prepare, but once you have that safety net, don't stress yourself out on that situation anymore because you've already done what you can. So once you've done what you can, you have to release control and be present however that best serves you in this now moment. Don't let that worst case scenario dictate how you live your life. Number 4, focus on what you're grateful for. Where your attention goes, energy grows. What you focus on is what your reality will become. Oftentimes, we will know on a logical level what we are grateful for, but we don't give much focus to that. I think most of society is kind of in the mentality of, yeah, I'm grateful for my parents. Yeah, I'm grateful that I have food on the table and running water and all this stuff. Like, I already know that I'm grateful for all this stuff. But my life isn't great, or my life sucks because of all of these negative things. Like, oh, the AC in my apartment is broken. Oh, why am I still single? Oh, I've never had a boyfriend. And so you're aware of all the things that you have to be grateful for, but your attention is primarily focused and zoned in on the negative. So how do we start focusing on gratitude? How do we start making gratitude more of our automatic program? One good way is to make a gratitude list and read it every morning and every night. Another thing you can do is, as you're doing something where you're just kind of like waiting and can't really do anything, just focus on what you're grateful for then. So for example, when I fill up my water bottle, the dispenser here is super slow. So as I'm filling up my water bottle, I'll say, I love you, thank you, I'm so grateful to have running water, I'm grateful that I'm alive, I'm grateful that I'm healthy. And by doing that, I am focusing on gratitude in that moment of emptiness. And I'm consciously choosing to put my attention there, and the more I do so, the more my mind will naturally see that. What we are focused on creates our reality. So if I'm mostly focused on things I am grateful for, then I'm going to attract more things in my life to be grateful for. Or from one perspective, I see what I'm grateful for in everything that I attract into my life. However, if I'm focused on all the things that suck, then I'm going to attract things into my life that make me feel like life sucks, right? But you can flip the script where you're aware of what's not working out for you in life. You're aware of what's sucky, and you let yourself feel that way when those emotions arise. But your focus and your attention tends to gravitate towards gratitude. And I think a lot of people think that some people are just lucky and get to be grateful, and other people are just more pessimistic. But in reality, it takes a lot of conscious effort to put your attention towards what you're grateful for. And it is something that I am still working on myself every day. Because I have been a pessimist since a very long time. We think that the manifestation is the answer to our happiness, when in reality, our happiness is the answer to our manifestation. Our perception is the key to us taking the actions necessary to create a reality that's in alignment to our heart, instead of a reality that's in alignment to our unmet needs. Number 5, do things that make you feel safe. Basically, what this point boils down to is learn how to self-soothe. Create a list of things that make you feel safe and make you feel cared for and are ways for you to self-soothe. You can take a nice salt bath, you can do yoga, you can stretch. Maybe it's a nice warm cup of hot cocoa. Whatever it is that makes you feel soothed and calm and safe, give that to yourself. And also find ways to bring safety into scenarios where you would normally feel unsafe. So for example, if you're starting a YouTube channel and you're really nervous about putting yourself out there on the internet, as you're uploading the video, you can hum a song to yourself, or you can say, it's okay, I love you, you're doing amazing. And it's interesting, as I was doing that, I was squeezing my hand, and that's I don't even know if that was soothing to me, but it definitely is. This feels nice. Add an extra layer of comfort so that you can bring yourself into doing the thing that's scary. And all of these self-soothing things you do can help bring you into doing the thing that you want to do, but your body may feel resistance towards. So our pessimism, our negativity, is like our antidote to danger. So by doing little things to help us feel safe, the negativity will not be as pervasive. Because as I said, negativity is a mindset that kind of exists in fear and looking out for danger. It's a survival mechanism. A question that you can ask yourself is, what changes can I make so I do not perceive the world as inherently painful and dangerous? And the last point, number 6, reprogram your belief system. Obviously, this is a whole giant topic in its own, and something I will definitely have to make a in-depth video about one of these days. And I know reprogramming your belief system is easier said than done. By a long shot, Beach. So since reprogramming your belief system is a giant topic, I'm going to give you one exercise that you can do to help you with this process. So start by identifying your limiting beliefs. As I said with accepting the negativity, this may require you to have a dialogue with yourself or journal out the thoughts of the most negative, pessimistic aspects of yourself. I'll just do like an example of an exercise. Okay, I get really stressed when I take tests because I'm afraid of not getting an A. What would it mean if I didn't get an A? Well, it means that I wasn't perfect. Okay, well, what would it mean if I wasn't perfect and if I didn't hit the mark I expected? Well, that means that I'm not good enough because I see my physical achievements as something that is representative of my worth as a person. When you dig into the deeper meaning behind that fear, you can start to pinpoint what your limiting beliefs are. So one way to reprogram your belief system is by writing down your limiting beliefs and then writing down its opposite. So for example, if you believe the world is dangerous, on its flip side, you would write the world is safe. If you believe things don't work out for me, the flip side would be things work out in my highest good. I am not good enough. I am good enough. If you believe I am only as good as my achievements, you say my achievements are not attached to my worth. Positivity brings me pain. Positive thinking brings me joy. So once you've written down the opposite of the limiting beliefs that you want to let go of, I want you to start putting your attention onto the opposite of your original beliefs. You can do this in meditation. You can do this as morning affirmations. You can do this as a journaling exercise where you even write down the belief multiple times. And basically what this does is by putting your attention onto the opposite of your belief system that you are trying to let go of, you slowly start to build the pathways in your brain that make those forms of thinking more natural and more automatic. So when you first do this, obviously there's going to be a lot of resistance there because your automatic program at this point in time is the world is dangerous. So if I start saying the world is safe, then all of these thoughts are going to rush in like, no, that's not true, the world is dangerous, and give you all of this evidence. But what I want you to do, even though it's hard and it gets easier over time, is continue to focus on the belief of the world is safe and look for evidence that supports that. And so then you start to develop that belief system, create those neural pathways in your brain, and the more you use those and the less you use the other ones, the weaker those get. It's like tunnels that close up, and the stronger these ones get, and the tunnels like get wider. So as I said, this isn't easy. This is highly uncomfortable. It's going to take time. It's going to take trial and error. This process is long and this process is messy, and that is a part of it, and that is okay, and that is beautiful. Be patient with yourself. All right, that was a long video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like if you liked it, comment any other video ideas you'd like me to do, subscribe for more content like this, and hit that notification bell if you're really cool. Shout out to my Fox tribe on the Patreon page. I love you guys and thank you so much for your support. I also want to say, recently some of the links in my description haven't been working. There's like these weird characters after it. So if like the link to my Patreon isn't working, for example, try deleting those last numbers or just type in patreon.com/DannyFox with 2 X's. Love you guys. Thank you. You're amazing. I don't know what this is, but it feels like a bird dance move. I'll see you guys next week.